Well, welcome back to another DT Wellbeing podcast with me, DT. Today, guys, I'm delighted to have a friend and a colleague with the Andrea Roach Model Agency, another male model with us today, ladies and gentlemen, James Boggan. James, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Grand. All things considered, grand. We're still alive, above ground and tipping during this pandemic, but not too bad, all things considered. And I'm glad to hear that things are going okay for you as well. I've seen you've been keeping yourself busy with a lot of fitness stuff going on. I see your yoga posts all the time online. So it's great to see you keeping those healthy habits going on. So look, James, we're friends, we're colleagues. You know what I do with my business and my startup, and you know what I do with the podcast. So like, I'm all about health and happiness and being, even the motto for DT Wellbeing or what we want to bring to the world. Our mission statement is, healthier and happier humans. So I know you're massive into your self-development and being the best version of you. And out of all the people I've worked with since I moved to Dublin, that's the guy that represents that in my eyes. Self-development, growth, and being the best version of yourself. So I was hoping that to start off the podcast, we'll talk about that. You have masters in sports management as well, so a good academic base there in terms of your sports background. I know you're an athlete as well. You played a lot of sports growing up, but big into the stuff that I research and I do on my business, that mind-body connection. So hopefully, James, we're gonna have a bit of a chat about that today. What you reckon?
Oh yeah, good. That all sounds good. Thanks for the introduction.
Well, look, credit where it's due, and thank you for coming on today. I know we're all bored in our minds a lot of times, so these things are actually not too to get involved in during the pandemic, but still, you're a busy man, so I do appreciate you coming on board today to have a chat with us, really, and my followers will be very interested to hear what you have to say. So yeah, we may as well start at the beginning. So tell us about this appreciation you have for self-development. Where did it come from? Have you always been like this? Because you're a high achieving young man and kind of always have been, so that drive and that desire to be the best version of you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I think it all started kind of playing sport when I was younger. Everything kind of stemmed from that, I think, in all parts of my life, to be fair, because it's something I loved, like playing hurling and football from a young age. I used to practice constantly, and even on my own a lot at home. I was lucky enough, my grandmother and grandfather lived next door, so they had a longer garden than we did. So
nice.
I used to have the goalposts in there, but I'd spend hours and hours in there till it got dark.
Nice.
But yeah, as I grew older and stuff, I was always looking for that next step of how to be better.
Yeah.
How can I improve? What is, you can do all the skills, but how do you reach the elite? That was something that was always in my mind, I think, from a young age, is trying to be better every day. Okay. And, as I grew and got older, you create more knowledge in different areas and different things, and something unknowns to me probably, or I focused a lot on, say, mentality and different things, and I probably had coaches there was one coach in particular, actually, George O'Connor. He is a popular hurler from down in Wexford here, a legend who won our last ever All-Ireland in '96.
Nice.
But I remember, there's points that sticks to me now that you mentioned it. It was playing under 16. I remember one day I used to take the frees on the team.
Nice.
And he'd play mind games with you over taking a free, and he'd stop the game. In training, we could be there and he'd call a free. And the way when you're playing a match or backs and forwards or something, you'd rarely have frees in it. It'd be just we'll continue playing, or, that kind of thing. But he'd randomly call a free sometime, and it's I'd have to go over and take it as the free taker.
Nice.
But then he'd wait ages, organize the defense, come back to you, ask you about your free, mentally put pressure on you nearly, And
I think all free takers, and that's their responsibility, they find that, that all eyes on you. There's pressure on you even before that. So I always have a lot of admiration and respect for free takers. And did you respond well to that, or did you find the pressure being a bit too much, or how did you find that how old were you around there when you were playing hurling at that level?
Well, this particular time I was 15 at the time.
Yeah.
But it was something I kind of thrive nearly in a crisis situation or pressure point.
Nice.
Sometimes when I'm put under pressure, it nearly brings the best out of me. It's kind
Brilliant.
of, maybe it's more that I can come across laid back, people say, but to me, I'm relaxed about things. But when, push comes to shove, if something needs to be done, I'll be, top of the list kind of thing, trying to lead the way. But yeah, back to the kind of free taking thing.
Yeah.
George kind of put, he'd play little mind games with you, but it was all unknowns to you. It's developing you in the situation. At that age, you wouldn't really know what is going on in your head. Your understanding of the mind and different things wasn't there at the time. But little things like that, I think, spurred me on then to challenge myself in that area and stuff. I was actually tidying up my room at home there over the winter, and I found I took a photo of it, actually. It's in my phone. I found a little note in a box. Now, I was no more than 50. I'd say I was between 12 to 15, 16. And it said it was something about interpersonal skills, which is like, your communication between yourself and interpersonal kinesiology kind of like I'm more of a practical learner.
Yeah.
So that, and as well, then it was like written on the bottom was learn about emotional intelligence, and I was looking at this going 15. I
some
never even knew.
Would like that note.
Yeah, but I was looking at this going, I didn't even know I wrote that back then.
Somebody else obviously had a positive influence on you there. Like those aren't your words. Kinesiology, like emotions, like that's some normal stuff for a 15-year-old to come up with themselves. So obviously you have good role models around you, whether they're teachers, coaches, parents, but somebody was putting that. But that's great, and even though you might have been conscious of it at the time, that's so a little seed in you that maybe has created this adult now. You don't know that, but a lot of these things subconsciously affect our adult life through things that we don't even realize that are going on when we're that young. That's cool, man.
Yeah, but that's it, what you're saying. Like subconsciously, then I think it was something I was always building on, And it's like in sport then, because like my life revolved around sport till I was about 24, I'd say.
Yeah, but you just changed. You're still very, very active and very, very fit. Look, ladies and gentlemen, he has his top on right now, but thank baby Jesus, because this guy's beast. But so you just changed to the gym, but you're still competing with yourself in that regard, and you're still training like an athlete would. And again, that's probably a testament to your coaching or your sporting background. But yeah, it is funny, isn't it, how sport can have all these influences on us. And team sports especially, we learn what you said there about interpersonal skills and working within a unit and leadership and, the joy and elation of success and the bitter disappointment of failure or not being picked and all these sort of things that, they do build character, irrespective.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And even something I find still in like today, people don't actually pay enough attention to the mental side of sport. It's something that, the benefits of it are huge. Like there was a research I was even reading about, I think about 2 years ago, with American athletes in NFL, the NBA, and I think the MLB, the baseball, where they ranked like physical and mental side of their performance, like what helps them best, on match day in particular. And it was between 60 and 70% came back that was mental. So over half of all these like top performers in America. And then you're there spending hundreds of hours physically training and maybe none mentally,
Get it. And you know what? That's representative of every walk of life, whether it's sport or otherwise. It's coming to people's realization now, and it probably came to me a little bit earlier, but like everything is peripheral to the mind. It's all in the mind. And whether you're playing sports, and for like I pure remember that, like playing gay football and being riddled with performance anxiety, and then not being able to physically perform in a manner that I know I was capable of doing just because my mind wasn't right. And the flip side of that is that I remember my last year playing football, I was up here in Dublin playing with Clontarf, and I was just rock solid with my mind. And as a result, then football just came easy, you know, no stress, no dramas, do your job. And like my body was like, I was in my 30s playing up here, whereas the prime of my fitness in Cork, and I couldn't play down there because my mind wasn't right. But I think when it comes to business, or whether it comes to academia, whether it comes to romance or relationships, it's all starts in the mind. It's all that emotional and mental, and the physical stuff just happens around it. And you know, but for sure with sports, like especially when taking like golf, or you know, even like to a lesser degree maybe darts, where it's just continuous under pressure, all eyes on you, and so minute line between success and failure. Golf is what always stands to me. It's like, how do they do it under so much pressure? But
and the length of time they play as well.
Yeah, and continuously keeping that level of performance around the whole course. Yeah, it's very, very impressive. But what I was going to say there is I remember being a student in the University of Limerick and hearing sports psychology for the first time. And my dad would have been a PE teacher in a similar course, and like it was never a thing. And that's not too long ago when I was there. So it's a new sphere, but fascinating, right?
Yeah. Oh no, I think like, you know, the area is not frowned upon, but it's kind of like, you know, if you have an injury physically, you're nearly pitied for it. Like, you know, it's physical, people can see it. But if you've, like, you don't have to be depressed or anything, but you have a mental struggle over something, it's nearly hidden because, you know, I think the whole kind of attention around a mental problem is like, oh, there's something wrong with him, he's a weirdo, you know, especially at a younger age. But, you know, I think as we move on in time, we're growing out of that, thankfully. But, you know, as we were growing up, it would have been really the opposite, you know, like as in someone has some mental problem, it's like there's something wrong with them, you know.
For sure, but it just all comes down to ignorance. You know, it's ignorance in education. You know, it's on one hand now we have people that are very well educated, very well informed, and have the capacity to share this knowledge. And as a result, society is getting a little bit more informed, and that's happened through our generation for the first time. But in prior generations, the most intelligent people wouldn't have been talking about this stuff, and as a result, there was just this void. So it was all ignorance, and unfortunately, from ignorance comes stigma and all these things and it's like, you know, if you don't know, you don't talk. But it's definitely growth, definitely developments there, and it's wonderful to see, because if I got like a group of young lads now and had them at 10 and was able to work with them until they were 18, just on their mind as well as the sports, like it could be just hugely influential. And just talking basics, you know, stress management and performance anxiety, things like that. But it is fascinating, and you know, like we're all one organism, and my mind is my mind, and your mind is your mind, and your body is your body, my body is my body. But you know, it's all encompassing of who we are. But I love it, and you know, like if I didn't love it, I would have stuck in Trinity doing this PhD this long, allowing it to wreck my head as much as I have, because I love the topic. But yeah,
but it is a fascinating topic, because you're kind of never at the end, you know.
Yeah,
it's like there's always something you can improve on.
Love that. And like totally, and that's like what you were saying there, like about self-development and that growth. When you get that growth engine going, and you know that like in 6 weeks time you can be a different person, in the next 6 weeks time you can be a better person, and you know, change is inevitable, growth is a choice, so you can go one way or the other. But that growth, you can just, it's a never-ending process if you so wish, if you engage with it, you know.
Oh yeah, and it's like joining the gym or anything. Once you start doing something and you see the benefits of it, you know, it becomes addictive, because you know, who doesn't like feeling good at the end of the day? Like when you start exercising and you feel the benefits, then you see the benefits, you're like, I'm going to keep doing this. But like if you spend time working on your mental skills, like working on different habits, or you know, your mental fitness, you could call it, you know, and then you're seeing benefits of, like, say you have an argument with someone and you would have reacted differently, and then you've learned now, like, to maybe take a step back or look at something from the other person's point of view, or defuse the situation and continue in, you know, the new version of you, like the version of you that's learned more, that's evolved, and you know, it's the better version of you. And like when you see things and you witness things day to day of like you're a better person because of that, you know, you're like, you know, I feel good about myself because I wasn't a dickhead in that situation when I was previously. And now, you know, I want to do more of that. I want to be a better person, you know, so I want to spend more time learning more skills in that area of like, it can be anything. It can be like, you know, procrastination skills, or, you know, speaking skills, being even present when you're talking to someone is a big thing now, because like we're spending so much time on our phones and different things, and sometimes we're not present with the person we're with. And I know like sometimes you're, you know, depending on the situation, like you don't always have to be fully engaged, but when you're talking to someone one-on-one, like just being there with them and listening to their words, looking at them and different things, you know, it's so much more rewarding in the conversation.
Yes, and both of you win, but that person who's speaking is feeling appreciated, and that and listening is such a rare skill. You know, if you're a really good listener, you're just of value to society, because there's few and far between good listeners. Yeah, brilliant.
But
and I love what you said there.
A big thing there was, I find with people is a lot of us listen to respond. You know, we're not listening. We have our answer straight away. Yes. And then we're not even digesting the information someone has given us, because we just want to hammer in that answer we have already, our opinion. But it's like, take a step back and like digest the information someone has given you, you know, and then answer what they're talking about, you know.
Yeah, and you can give an input, and you can like be a nice sounding board with some, you know, whilst imparting your own opinion on the topic, but you don't have to dictate in the direction that you had planned to. That's the beauty of an organic conversation. Even with like a podcast like this or an interview, start off with a few topics that you'd like to get through, but you know, they're just like rough frameworks that we can scaffold our own. But generally speaking, you just want this organic chat. Whatever comes up comes, and if it comes, let it come. But
you can end up down rabbit holes of totally not what you started.
3-hour podcast. You know this how this can go, James. So we're trying to keep this on topic.
Have you a timer on?
No, I don't.
Well, it's pretty early yet.
Sure, look, what else are we doing, James? What else would we be doing? But I do love it, and what you said there about, you know, catching yourself in a moment, knowing that, just like recognizing your personal growth, just for yourself, without even acknowledging that anybody else is going, whoa, I'm a different person than I was, obviously, because of how I reacted, and I reacted in a very different way to a similar situation in the past. So love it. And as I said, it's a never-ending journey, and we should never aim for perfection. We'll never get there. We'll never be the best version of ourselves, or never be the healthiest and happiest, because that's the beautiful thing. There's always space for more growth. But it's the process, you know, and I love it. And you know, my business is to make people the healthiest, happiest version of themselves. I'm trying to do it for myself too, you know. And if you focus on the health and the happiness, you know, that all ties into being the best version of yourself. So love it. We're on the same page there. It's not just the hoodies we have in common, James. We have a lot of whites in common too.
White must be in today, is it?
Oh, sure, look. I was like, I should have rang you before. I was like, what are you wearing, James? What are you wearing? The word got out. You see, James, two main models on the podcast. They're asking to go out their wearing. Well, that's good, man. And like, all about that life. So like, what have you been doing for yourself for the last year? Like, when was the last time we worked together? We used to work together. There was a fortnight there before we went to Australia. I think we did 4 jobs together in 2 weeks. But it's been a long time, and pandemic, global, you know, the global pandemic, COVID-19. How have you been occupying yourself, man?
Last year, well, I've been back home, working at home, doing different things, kind of creating ideas about different things, kind of looking at maybe starting up something myself, possibly. But most of it's just when I'm at home here, there's always something to do. Like there's always something.
No doubt. But, and like for your own well-being and health and happiness, how have you been keeping like sane or active, or what have you been doing?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough, like my sister teaches yoga and she does cupping, Reiki, all that kind of stuff as well.
Nice.
Body Feels is her name on Instagram. I'll give her a bit of a plug in there.
Do plug away. And honestly, even for my own sake, I'd like to check her out.
Yeah.
So Reiki as well. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I actually had my first Reiki session. I'd say it was only maybe 2 weeks into the first lockdown. But no, it was different. Like, I fell asleep, but that doesn't matter. It's all about relaxing and just being there. But it does lift the weight off you a bit.
Yeah.
All I remember was before I fell asleep was getting this kind of a fuzzy feeling on the top of my head.
Nice.
Like, I don't know what, like, you know, you're just like, you're totally just relaxing. Like, you don't have to do anything. But
it's great. I never told you this. My mother's a Reiki master.
Oh, is
so
she?
Like, so growing up as kids, me and my two brothers were the guinea pigs at home when she was getting all her qualifications. Reflexology, Reiki, like, it's not even my studies. Like, I haven't chosen. My dad's a PE teacher and my mom is Reiki, reflexology. DTW is in the middle. But that's amazing, man. And how do you find the yoga? Do you enjoy it?
Very good. Well, I had nearly 2.5 years ago, I got a bad neck injury. So I've had a bulge disc in my C6, C7.
Okay.
And they cut the root nerve. So it was during the time I was doing my dissertation as well. And I was in chronic pain. I couldn't sleep or anything. Went to specialists and stuff, didn't go for the surgery as it's risky. They kind of cut you through the front and different things, but you can make a full recovery from it, like through rehab and stuff. It just takes time. So, I got cortisone injections in it and then kind of changed my training into more practicing more mobility and stretching and stuff. And I was lucky that Neve teaches yoga as well, so
brilliant.
Doing that kind of twice a week, at least once a week, I try and do it. And
because I've seen your stories. I was watching your Instagram stories and I knew you were doing a lot more yoga than I had noticed before, but it's something that I never got into myself. I've done a few sessions and have enjoyed them, but like out of my comfort zone, and me being me, just I don't like being shit at things. I was like, I can't do it. It's like, you know, and especially when you consider yourself a fit guy, and I do know, like, conceptually I value it, and I know that in my future it will be a big part of it. I just haven't engaged with it enough yet.
It's very good because it's kind of, you focus on yourself for the hour or however long you're doing it, like your movements. You create an intention for the class.
Nice.
And you kind of build everything around that. And, you know, I'm not brilliant at yoga. I'm like, some days, if I'm after training heavy the week before in the gym and you could be all stiff and tight, you're like, oh, this is painful, but as in physically painful.
I get it.
It's more like it's not about stressing yourself out. It's just move, get with the movements, create flow in your body and enjoy it. And, you know, you do see benefits from it in different areas. Like, you know, when I first did a downward dog, I was probably the worst downward dog looking thing of all time. But now,
second worst, mate. Second worst.
Do you know what's actually great? If you watch a dog doing the downward dog, they're obviously perfect at doing it.
Yes, all right. That's what I was thinking. Maybe there wasn't a dog, but it was like a giraffe.
But we have a little dog at home, and I, you know, during the lockdown, you'd be doing home workouts and stuff out in the hall, and she'd always come out and, you know, just think it's playtime when you're out.
Yeah.
And then she'd like lie off because sometimes the sun would come in the front there in the evening, and, you know, she'd stretch out and do her downward dog. And I'm like, so that's how you do it, right?
Oh, very good. You just went. I was training a client down the other day, and he's out in his garden. I had him doing V sit-ups, you know, hands to feet sit-ups, and his dog just came in right down next to him and started doing the same thing. I was like, this is gonna be a YouTube sensation. But it's funny. But yeah, it's still something that I'm trying to pick my old man sports, you know, and the future has yoga for me, and probably like running and things like, I don't think I'll ever be a golfer for the reasons that we mentioned earlier, but you need something at all the stages, you know, and football is very much in my rear view, so I gotta pick something else now. But I like the idea of yoga, at least. I might have to start watching your sister's videos or something and get some inspo. I do just look at the dogs out in PSG.
She has 3 classes on a week, so you should tune into them.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Good.
Okay,
and it's all like you take it at your own way. Like, it's not, you know, if you can't do something, you just do what you can of it. You know, it's not you don't stress yourself out. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do that. I don't want to do it because I don't want people to see me. Like, back when you could go into a class. Yeah. But I remember back when I was in college, I used to not start till 12 or 1 on a Friday, and the gym I was in at the time had this body balance class on a Friday morning, and I used to go to it. And I remember the first 2 weeks I went to it, I think there was 2 old men, and everyone else they were all women, and I was the only one there. I would say I was only about 24 at the time, and they were kind of looking as in, what is he doing in here, you know? Yeah, it was intimidating, you know. And you're like, so I went to the back and got my mat. But it's, when you look around and you see old women able to do these stretches and poses, and you're struggling, it's like, it's motivational in a way, because it's like you can see like how beneficial it is, but as well, it's kind of demoralizing. They're able to do it and I can't.
Yeah,
you know, even
but
though,
you know, physiologically, like, you know, girls will be more flexible and guys will be, you know, it's funny, like when you go into the lifting room, like the free weights room in the gym, it's all guys and they're all doing upper body stuff. It's because physiologically we're stronger there. So everybody likes doing what they're good at or has an advantage at. So guys are good at lifting, and the girls are better with lower anatomy. So you see them maybe in the squat racks and the cardio, but you definitely see them in the yoga sessions, because, like, again, girls tend to be more flexible than guys, especially as we grow older. But that's more a reason for us to do it. You know, if that's something that I have organically, naturally, it's something that we need to work on. It means we need to work on it, because then those injuries that we do tend to get, you get less of them if you're looking after that. But,
definitely. But yeah, that's why I started doing it, was more to get out of my comfort zone and to do something different, because I knew like mobility was going to help me sports wise anyway. But as I joined the class, like after 2 or 3 weeks, the instructor, you know, realized I was there, like actually trying. I wasn't just in there for the crack or anything. And you know, you have that bit of respect then, as in people know.
Yeah.
You know, you're in there and you're in there to work and to like for the class, because the first 2 weeks it was just like all eyes were like, what's he doing in here?
But great, man, you stuck at it and you're still doing it, you know, 5-6 years later, whatever case may be. So that's impressive.
The meditation is actually very good at the end. Neve does it at the end of her yoga classes.
Nice.
And that's something I've kind of tried to do a lot more of in the last few years. It's something I didn't really understand till you know, listen to more people talking about it. And but it's kind of something you're I don't think, well, like obviously some Buddhist monks are good at it or whatever, and a lot of people, but it's more like an easy way of explaining it would be, you know, relax your mind, don't think about anything, or just create an intention and like focus on your breathing. And you can like do different breathing techniques or whatever, but then it's like every time you feel your mind wandering, so you're like thinking about, oh, what am I going to eat after my meditation, or what do I have to do tomorrow, or like planning something. It's like you're aware that your mind is after wandering into something, and you take it back to just focusing on your breathing, focusing on your breathing. So like it's like that's 1 rep, if you get me. That's why, because I'm used to the gym. It's like that's how I could get it into my head. It's just like, and then the next time you don't even think about it, you're not, and then you're like, why am I thinking about?
But it's great. That's a great analogy what you use there in terms of like counting it as a win as opposed to a loss. Because a lot of people I know who meditate or do mindfulness, they get frustrated when their mind goes off track, or they start concentrating on other things and they get frustrated. It's like, oh, when I'm doing meditation, my mind should be empty. No, like, we're that's never going to be the case. And I remember I had a mindfulness coach, like, so I've been practicing mindfulness since 2014, 2013. Like, you know, it used to be a weekly session I had in Cork, but like now I just do it every day. Like, I'm qualified in mindfulness-based stress reduction. But I remember my first ever teacher, she was saying, like, when you experience that thought, that unexpected thought, imagine it's a leaf falling in a river, and you just see it and let it go, and then bring yourself back. And it was just really a nice analogy, because you're not going to stop the leaves falling. Just notice it and then come back. And I love that, because I love what you said, because every time you notice your mind wandering, instead of saying, oh, I'm so frustrated, my mind should be quiet, it's just like, that's a win. You've just noticed. It is mindfulness, catching yourself and bringing it back. That's just, because if you weren't mindful, you just go off on these runaway thoughts. Interesting, man. I didn't know you were so in. Yeah, look, I'm all about that life. And do you do,
but it's
when you do meditation?
Sorry?
No, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, I always look for different areas of improvement, you know, in that sense. So it's like, you know, you hear different things about it, or, you know, mindful, like, as I'm into mindfulness and different, or, you know, personal development or whatever, you know, mindfulness is a part of that. And it's a bit like, it's great to detox your brain, because, you know, we go through so much thoughts and stresses and different things every day that, you know, if you don't give your mind time to process the information you've intaken during the day, you're just going to build on all that information and create more stress. And maybe there's something you should have learned that day, and if you don't give your brain time to learn and digest that information, like subconsciously, you're not going to benefit from it, and maybe you're going to have the same problem or mistake in the future, because you haven't digested that information properly. And that's why, like, sleep is something now I'm kind of getting really interested in, because it's at night where we do most of our brain detoxing, you know, and it's funny, I was listening to a podcast learning off a man a week or two ago how, you know, when you're dreaming and you could be, you know, you could have these random dreams and it's like two things happen, or like someone is doing something and it's like, this makes no sense whatsoever. But it's actually like, the reason behind that sometimes is the feeling or emotion attached to that, or the lesson you learned from, say, that one thing and something else here are attached, so it's getting processed at the same time. They're putting them, there's like, you know, they're like a brain
double jobbing,
like, store information constantly in our subconscious, like, you know, computers do, or like a tree has loads of branches, we store information everywhere. It's the same thing, like, so it's like our mind is like processing everything, and that's why sleep is so important. Like the other night, for example, I had an awful sleep. I woke up about 3 times and I felt it the next day.
Yeah.
And there's nights you have great sleep and you know, you feel so much better from it. And something I start doing, well, I went not regularly, but maybe 2 or 3 times a week, was like maybe doing like 10 minutes meditation in the morning, just to start, because a lot of time I wake up, I could be groggy or whatever. Sometimes I wake up and I can't wait to go. It's more like, it depends on what I've planned that day most of the time, really, how I feel. But, you know, even that, just 10 minutes of just lie there, take the 10 minutes, relax, and then start the day. Sometimes, like, that made a big help to me a lot. And then recently I've been more stressed about a few things, and times when I've meditated, you know, it's way harder. It's like I'm getting worse at this. And it's more like the more you're stressed, the less you know, can actually do it properly, because you've so much going on in your mind. And when you have that moment where you're not doing anything, your mind brings up all the stressors and it's harder, but you nearly get more reward from it in that time as well, because you are so stressed about certain things that after it you're like, oh, I do feel better, you know?
Yeah, and I agree with that. And for me, it works in that sort of stressful situation, especially if there's something like hyper stress inducing or anxiety inducing. Definitely that mindfulness or meditation just prior to that meeting or to that performance, it helps. But I feel as though the best approach towards meditation and mindfulness is to build into a habitual routine, because that lowers kind of the threshold of the stress, you know. So if you were to meditate every day, and I have been trying to have that as a kind of a non-negotiable for me, I feel as though I get to that point of being stressed by that meeting or anxious by that performance less frequently. So the stimulus would have to be much, much larger for me to even feel any sort of negative emotions or, you know, pent up emotions. Because if you do it habitually, the meditation, it's one of these ones that I think it's the prime example of you get the value from it, do the accumulative meditations, you know, the accumulative benefit of doing them for 10 minutes a day. You really get the benefit of that the following, like almost year, by having it continuously, just a little bit every day, a little bit, and then you just see that level, and your stress level might be, you know, at a certain point, but doing that over and over, you just drop the threshold. And it is one of those ones that there's very little value from doing it as a once off, but if you do it regularly, it just changes who you are. And I absolutely adore it now. I absolutely adore it. And it is my non-negotiable. Once upon a time, that might mean physical fitness, whereas now I don't leave the bed without meditating. When I wake up.
Oh, really?
So yeah, that is the truth. I use Insight Timer. It's just a hard and fast rule I have. It's like, if I'm under pressure and I have to get moving fast, it might be a 5-minute meditation. But with the lovely thing about Insight Timer, the app, and I keep thinking of a plug, and people are like, are you like representing them, or are you on commission? It's like, no, I just absolutely adore the app. It's but like, you just can say how long you want to meditate for, what would you like to meditate on. They've like all different categories, like love and kindness, or, you know, confidence, or, you know, stress management, just like focuses for the meditation. But then you can say, you can even filter it even more. It's like, I'll do it for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, or I'd like this type of speaker. And it's just amazing. When I was studying this in Sydney, I used to use Headspace all the time, and I love that as well. And Calm is also very, very good. But when I was in Sydney, every single practitioner on the course that I did in the mindfulness-based stress reduction, they're like, Insight Timer, Insight Timer, Insight Timer. So now it's essentially my alarm clock. Like, I get up when I use it, and then I can start my day. But it's good. And would you? Yeah, I honestly really recommend it. If you like guided meditations, when you meditate, do you do it self-directed, or would you use an app? Or
most of the time, I just lie down and try and relax, focus on breathing. Nice. That'd be mostly how I do it. The odd time I would find something on an app or something like that.
I think
have you heard of? Yeah, I must try it. Have you heard of Joe Dispenza?
Yes.
Yeah, you definitely have. No, but I recorded one of his meditations. Sometimes I use that because, like, he does great things with meditation. But every time I'd say I've used it about 5 or 6 times, but like for a longer period. I'd only use, you know, guided ones if I'm trying to do it for longer periods of time. But most of the time, after 5-10 minutes, I fall asleep doing it. But it's not a bad thing to fall asleep during it.
As long as you're still getting that first 5 minutes, or anything, nothing else, it's just helping get to sleep. And the Dalai Lama says sleep is the best form of meditation. So if it's okay for the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, it's okay for us. But
I find that good as well, as in, like, it's even before bed. Like, sometimes if you're meditating, you mightn't intentionally want to go asleep, but before bed, if you like send like have good intentions before you go asleep, or like, you know, relax your body properly before you go asleep, you're going to sleep better, you know, anyway. So it's like, it's not even that I'm meaning to meditate or anything, but sometimes if I'm lying in bed there, I'm gonna, like, you know, just focus on my breathing and try and, you know, relax my body before I go to sleep to get a better sleep that night.
Yeah, and I like, and as you were saying earlier about that sleep, the importance of it. Like, I'm just such a massive advocate for it as well, you know. And you just know that feeling of not getting a proper night's sleep. And like, I was always getting my 8 hours, but between yourself and myself, the last 4 nights I've slept for 10 hours. every night. I sleep falling asleep at like 8:15, 7:30, like ridiculous stuff. And I don't know what it is, but I feel the benefit from it, and I'm super productive during my days then. But I just don't think there's any downside. The more sleep, the better, man. And but meditation definitely can help and just allows you to relax.
Yeah, but it's like anything as well. It's like the quality of sleep or the quality of anything you do is like so important. It's like one thing I struggled with was, I still sometimes, you see, I constantly drink water too much probably, because I'd wake up in the night and need to go to the toilet like at least once a night. But now I'm in a thing like, so 9 o'clock comes, don't drink anything, you know. So you're not retaining water, and you know, less of a chance of having to go to the toilet during the night.
Makes sense. And like you just see, and then you find things that will work for you, and then you just have it as like, you know, a hard and fast rule. I have the same with my phone. I just turn off my phone at 8 p.m. because I want to be asleep, you know, in and around 9. So my mother couldn't contact me at 8. Like, I'm just off the grid. But again, that I just found that works for me. And if I keep my phone on, I'm more distracted and I'm checking things and I'm not asleep at the time I want to be. So that's just a hard and fast rule I developed just for myself. So with that water, you know, you find what works for you.
That's something I need to work on. Like, it's in my mind to work on, is like reduce the screen time late at night. But sometimes it's hard, because if you're busy during the day and you're trying to catch up on things at night and do things, you're like, but it's not really what's good for me, you know.
And we know it, you know, but it's an addiction. Something like this helps, right? Because like every one of my clients tells me that they can't turn off their phone because they need an alarm clock. No, you don't. You can get an alarm clock. That's not your phone. But things like this, like little knacks. But man, like even having your phone. So teenagers who bring their phone to bed are 50% more likely to develop a mental illness. That is a fact. And as adults, we're the same. You know, it's just that distraction, the lack of sleep. Even if you're not looking at the phone, your mind is hyper vigilant, because you're going to be, did I get that message? Did I get that swipe on Tinder? Did I get that LinkedIn offer? And also just the light on your phone, whether you're looking at it or not, the little flickering light interrupts the quality of your sleep when you're asleep. So, you know, it's part of society now, and it seems like alien to say you can go to bed without technology. I'll still say it and I'll be called an alien. Go to bed without technology, because you know it'll be there when you wake up. And you know, I've been turning off my phone at 8 p.m. for the last 3 years, and not once did I wake up to anything emergency like or drastic that I needed action. So anyway, but that works.
A big thing too is, like, you know, your circadian rhythm, you know, sleeping, you know, at night when it's dark, and you know, trying to get in the habit of sleeping at, so you say you go to bed at 11, you wake up at 8, or you go to bed at 12, you wake up at 8, or you go to bed at 10, you wake up at 6, whatever it is. Like, getting in that routine, you know, shows really good benefits as well, because it's, you know, your mind gets in the habit, your body gets in the habit of that. And as well, it's to do with, you know, the daylight. You know, like during the winter we have more darkness than light, and we actually need more sleep, or like more sleep is better for us apparently, because to do with the daylight and the nighttime. And I find that myself, like in the summer you will be more energetic, and in the winter you will be a bit
down. But that makes sense,
not
you know?
down, but a bit
but like seasonal, like seasonal affective disorder is like very, very common. People do suffer with the mental health and depression during the winter time. And maybe that's because we're not in tune with nature. You know, if the birds are going to sleep, why aren't we going to sleep? You know, we're all part of nature. So maybe that is something that I never thought of that. Like, I'm all about the circadian rhythm. The reason I turn off my phone at 8 is because I want to be asleep at 9, because I sleep 9 to 5. That's my 8 hours, like all the time, 9 to 5. So phone off at 8, give myself an hour to relax, reading, and then I'm asleep. But my body, whether I want it or not, my body is telling me to go to bed at 8 o'clock. It's just crazy. Then my eyes are getting heavy. I'm asleep at 9, whether I want it or not, because I've just done it over and over. So I'm in tune with my circadian rhythm, thankfully. But and regardless of what the time is, you need your 8 hours, but go to bed 9 hours before you expect to wake up, and then you give yourself that hour in bed to relax. But
definitely.
Interesting what you said there about the sleep and the daylight. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I've never heard anybody phrase it that way. It does make sense.
A dark room as well is good, you know, having no light because you'd notice, you know, when a light breaks into your room, it's distracting or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's,
yeah.
I know.
And I always think of people that are working on shift, you know, people that work, like a lot of my friends do shift work, you know, and it's just like working when it's bright outside. Those blackout curtains are important, I'd say. But
I don't know how, like, you know, people working nights, like I did stuff before doing things, but like, geez, it's not good for you, you know. But unfortunately, people have to do it. But like, that's why it's important for them to build a routine with, say, you know, sleep them certain hours. Like, don't distract from your sleep, prioritize your sleep and get your sleep. Like, use a dark room, you know, have your good habits before you go to sleep, like you do with, you know, no phone an hour before, get your hour in before bed or whatever, like relax yourself, because, you know, it's detrimental to your health in the long run, really. Like, because as we said earlier, like at night your mind is like detoxing and processing everything, as well as that, like your digestive system is getting a break, you know. It's like, I don't have to eat or drink for 8 hours. Like, oh great, you know, it's like we can take a 8 hour.
And you know, you're hypertrophizing as well when you're asleep. It's like, I'm training young lads here all the time, like in the Trinity gym, you know, they're all like young lads, you know, undergrad kids, you know, 18 to 22, you know, with their vests and like all the boys getting a pump on. But like, I used to train a lot of those. And, you know, maybe you wouldn't prioritize your sleep when you're 18 to 22 because you're out partying and all the stuff that we did when we were freshers or you know, undergraduates. But as soon as they realize that, you know, you do all the lifting in the world, but if you're not eating right or sleeping right, you've got no benefit. Like, your muscles actually grow. They hypertrophize when you are asleep. So all that recovery, growth, you need to be in bed for that. And if you don't, you're wasting your time. So I do have sleep as the top of my list. Like, nothing gets in the way of it. I put it ahead of the exercise. Like, nothing.
No, that's good. It's something like I need to get better. Like, I'll go through stages where my sleep will be brilliant and stuff, and then I'll go through stages where I'm all over the place. But I find sometimes it all depends on like what you're doing and things. Like, some days you can be rushing and you're like, I want to get a gym session in, but I end up doing it late at night, and then you know, you're eating late, your energy levels are up, and you're not sleeping properly because you're doing so much in that short period of time before bed that you're not really getting your full benefit of sleep. But then again, you know, you can get in a habit of doing it as well. But I find, like, now if I'm training late, I'll either try and tire myself out or not go too hard, because you're kind of waking yourself up. Yeah, you're elevated or whatever. But
I've heard a few people say that, like, you know, there's a couple of arguments whether we should train in the evening or not, because, you know, how it'll affect our sleep. But I don't think it's as critical as people make it out to be. I feel as though you still can train in the evening, but you still need an hour relaxing before sleep time. And like, that's just critical. So whatever you're doing, you know, an hour and a half or 2 hours before sleep time isn't that important. But you can't go from the gym to the pillow. You need that hour of relaxation regardless.
Yeah.
But it is interesting.
I find more it's the exercise isn't as bad, because I try and play with things all the time, you know, test things, how I react to different things.
Yeah, you do.
It's I've found actually it's the eat, like, say after the gym you want to eat a substantial meal or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's more that is,
of course it is,
affecting the sleep rather than the late workout, or if you get me.
For sure it is. Your body's like, whoa, we got some sugar here, regardless if it's like complex or simple carbohydrates. Like, right, we're gonna work. Energy is like, what? He wants us to go to bed. What? What's going on? And then, you know, I see lads, I'm like training in the gym here, or like doing my fitness shift, and like the gym closes here at 10 p.m. We're reopening now on June 7th. Thank you. But I see lads like sucking down like Red Bulls and Monsters, like, lifting weights at 9 p.m. I was like, are you planning on sleeping tomorrow lunchtime, or what's the story? Gotta get that pump.
That's another thing though, caffeine. Like, you can't be drinking that after like 3-4 o'clock, like latest.
Yeah, and I tap out at 1. Like,
I'd be the same. Like, 2 o'clock, no more for me. Like, no
Stays in
more.
your
That's
system for
late.
9 hours. 9 hours caffeine is in your system, and 6 hours later it's still half strength. So whether it's an Americano or a Monster, it's still the truth. So like 6 hours later, it's still half strength in your body. It's, I don't know. Again, knowledge is power, and when you get this information, you can work around it. But like, you shouldn't have to be told not to be drinking coffee like our fucking Monsters at 9 p.m. It's like, good luck.
No. And there's like, it's like, I know, like when you're younger or whatever, you know, it's that adrenaline thing. You want to be in the gym, you know, and lift heavy weights or whatever. But it's like, honestly, a coffee is not, like, if you actually motivate yourself strong enough to do something, you'll do it. You don't, like, a coffee is not going to lift the weights for you. It's like, create a deeper meaning into like lifting the weights. That's something like, because most of my life I've trained in the evenings, and you know, I was never coffee, like, I'm not taking a coffee before training. But then, like, you can have your bit of a slump and you're not feeling it or whatever, but it's more like, you know, focus on what you're doing, or like, even like something you're angry about, like, use that to like drive some heavy lifting you're gonna do, or like,
and
some
as soon as you're in the gym and you're lifting and you're running, like, as soon as you're exercising, you're getting more energy. Like, it's the give energy, get energy trade-off, you know. As soon as you're in there, it's not a problem. But I feel as though, like, if you're tired of going to the gym and you take a coffee, that's okay. But only if you're tired going into a meeting, you'd have a coffee as well. You're not doing it specifically go lifting weights. It's just like, if you're in the middle of the afternoon and you need to pick me up regardless of what you're doing, well, that's okay. But I think caffeine and heavy lifting is always, I don't know, it's so common. I just think it's a recipe for disaster. But anyway, James, I'm not going to take any more of your time, because I've taken a lot now, and that was a lovely conversation. I think we'll all agree.
Jeez, I think we could talk all day.
Man, you know as well, this is only like Mark 1. This is like episode 1 of at least a trilogy that we'll do in this regard at some point. But look,
I was like taking different, like making bullet points of things I was going to talk about, different things, and it's like, geez, I've hit about 2 of them.
We wouldn't have it anyway, because there were some gems there, man. There were some gems, and like, bang on what I'm talking about with DTW and what I'm trying to achieve. There's so much there that my followers will get some value from. So really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it. I can't wait to work with you again. It's been fucking too long. Get back in the Guinness storehouse. Get back in the Guinness storehouse.
They need more faces on pints.
They do, especially yours and mine. So look, you're an absolute gem. James, I will leave you go. If anybody wanted to contact you, or if you want to give your sister another plug there, or what are the best places on social media to go find James Boggan, if there's any other questions or anything like that, anybody want to give a plug to, this is your time.
My username on Instagram is JBOGGAN, like J.
Follow this fella. Ladies, what I tell you about his pecs earlier, follow him for that alone.
It's funny actually, right? You know the way my username is like the letter J, Boggan.
Yeah.
Loads of people, you know, like when you're modeling and stuff like that, you meet new people all the time, and most of them like come across you on Instagram or something before they meet you, and a few people call me Jay, and I'm like, no, it's James. Go
with it. Yeah.
Just to clarify that out there now to everyone.
James Boggan. Yeah, look, lads, give him a follow. And give his sister a follow as well. And all this good stuff, man. And
Body Feels is her page.
Body Feels, BODYFEELS.
Yeah, that's it.
Good man.
Get in that yoga.
Well, fantastic. I'm going to give that a follow myself immediately. But look, James, absolute pleasure, mate. You're an absolute star. I appreciate your time this evening. And look, to the rest of you guys, I'll be back next week talking to somebody else about something I know nothing about. And you know that it's nothing but love. All right, Jamesy. We'll see you again,
Lovely.
pal.
Thank you.
Take it easy, brother. Thank you.